Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Ooh, that was so delicious. And now that I feel my powers oozing through my veins, and Mr. Barber has released me from my shackles, it is once again time to take a walk into the darkness known as the Dogman phenomenon.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, once again, you have found your way into the darkness of the Fox Den for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. Yes, this is the home and the stomping ground of what? The Midnight Society, and one of our weekly hosts times two, Mr. Barber, aka Bigfoot's Barbershop, has once again fended off the madness that lurks in the shadows to sit down by the late night fire and burn the timber as we once again try and figure out why people just can't get a grasp on reality in this field. Tonight, we are going to be diving into a very important topic about how human testimonial is not credible. And it's not from my mouth here. This is actual analytics that have been done numerous times. So it's not like it's a one-trick pony. You can look at so many different experiments. And also, why is it people that have been dubbed so important sometimes just get free passes on answering questions? And Mr. Barber, how you doing tonight, dude?
We're doing good. Like you said, it's quite a chore cutting through the madness out there because it seems lately I need a bigger pair of shears from the barbershop to cut through the nonsense that's in the world to get here.
Man, isn't that the truth, bro? And it's just so sad because there are so many great minds out there, but just with anything else, there's just so much chaos as well, and people just always buy into the chaos, meaning sure, a creepypasta or urban legend might sound interesting to fall asleep to, but at the end of the day, if we're going to talk about stuff that has credibility or science behind it, let's do that. Meaning, sure, the black-eyed children, everyone should know what that is. Sounds so cool. But again, there is not one historical documentation about that, yet it started off as an urban legend. Okay, so some people are going to be like, oh, well, it gave it power and they come around now. If you want to roll with that, that's fine. I roll with the more logical side of it is that people just now, because they've heard of it, well, when something becomes weird or strange, they just want to jump right to that topic.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like more people, the great minds that used to stand out, maybe, I don't know if they don't get the attention or if they just get tired of being the ones to stand out. So they just kind of let themselves fall into the chaos and run with the crowd like a pack instead of being the leader.
Well stated, man. And that's something I'm so anti against. I mean, it's just who I am. And, like my therapist would always say, I mean, I still talk to her. She's dope, but you got to find your own tribe in life. And yeah, I mean, I've always pretty much been kind of like a loner, and doing my own thing, meaning if everyone went this way, I automatically just went the other way. I can make my own path through the snow. And well, I used to feel like when I was younger, I had a old fence on both sides of me, eerie looking forest, and just a long road that I was just always walking on by myself. And that's fine. Okay. I mean, sure, it's cool to have everyone want to talk to you and be around you and things like that. Been there, done that. Don't care. At the end of the day, I know what it is that I want to do and the path that I want to abide by. And I'm just not going to subscribe to that stuff. And, I'm not going to dive into it. I'm not going to give it publicity. The things I talk about are based on science and logic. And I'm not saying some other things could not be occurring outside of that, because we do have our scientists that believe some other stuff are occurring. But key word right there, our scientists. Okay, so again, they're doing research to look at why, these things could be occurring outside of the norm. But at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, if someone's not a scientist, why is it you're given a platform to speak about a topic? At the end of the day, it's cool to be a backyard researcher. I'm not saying that they haven't brought decent things, but if someone per se is a mechanic, I'm not throwing shade on it, but I'm using an example, and that's your profession. But now you go out and you are some cryptid researcher per se that you feel like. Okay, sure, that's good to an extent, but you're naive to so many different aspects. You're not a biologist, okay? You're not a master tracker. You're not an environmentalist, all right? So as much as you want to say that you are, unless you spend all your time on that, which you're not because you're a mechanic and you're doing that as well, how is it that you get stamped with a person to be able to speak? I don't think that's correct. I think the people that have the actual education aspects should be the ones looking into the cases before speaking. Why is it the person that, like I just mentioned, goes online and then, puts this out there as credible when they're just a mechanic and not one scientific person looked into that? How is that credible? It's not.
No, I agree. And I'll even take it one step further with people that have like a PhD in exercise kinesiology shouldn't be speaking on bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know how the body works, but do you know how to get ready for a show? Why are you talking about how to build the body when you just know how it functions? You know how it moves. You don't know as far as the protein intake and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, because they got some alphabet letters after their name, they're automatically deemed an expert. And it's like, you might be an expert in kinesiology, but you don't know jack squat about bodybuilding because they're a doctor.
Yeah, well stated, man. And that's right on the opposite spectrum as the example I gave. But yes, perfect example as well. So I just encourage people, make sure you do some background checking on who you follow and information that you take in as credible. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to do what it is they want to do. But all right, I'll give it an example because you actually wanted to know some of the things that I use. Might as well tell you right now, man, while we're speaking. So that way, anytime you want to know, you can hear it. Things that I love for credible aspects: PBS, BBC, Discovery Channel, National Geographic's History Channel. Right there, those are all beautiful. Now we're going to, do a little bit of YouTube stuff too. Extinct Zoo, North O2, highly compelling. Miller Wilson, Greg Ovens from Ovens Rocky Mountain Survival, Cody Lundeen, Dave Canterbury. Okay, these are from Dual Survival. These are also all beautiful ways to get research. Same thing. People can say what they want, but until you can show me why they're not a good research and why they don't have amazing things. The Smithsonian is absolutely beautiful as well. The Boston Museum of Science, or any sort of museum archives that you can get your hands on to be able to sit there and actually read through quality information. Okay. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple of resources that I really do enjoy. But I did miss one. The Travel Channel as well has some bizarre stuff on there, but actually has some really great things that when you fact checked it, again, you can find them in other locations, like I just stated. So, boom, bro. Those are pretty much the things I look into, the things I value for speech on topics. And yeah, man, great minds. And I also like to read a lot of things from Harvard as well, man. So.
I was going to say medical journals, and as far as their studies, as long as you understand how to read the actual study and not just jump to the conclusion. You want to know who funded the study. You want to know how the study was put together. You don't want Max Bodybuilding with a product funding their study to see if their product works.
Yes, exactly, brother. And that's what I mean about being able to really distinguish between the good science and the bad science, meaning I've used this example before. Okay, here's an example of good science and bad all into one. You had one side that was hell bent, no pun intended, gross, that this Nanosaurus Rex was a juvenile T-Rex. Okay. Then you had the other side that originally, potentially thought that, but then started getting really merit-based aspects and credibility saying that this was not a juvenile T-Rex. Just doesn't look the same with its skeleton structure, the way it would be standing. It just doesn't logically grow into a T-Rex. Well, that other side just wouldn't budge at all. Yes, it is. It is 1,000% a juvenile T-Rex. Well, guess what? As more great evidence came out, we now understand that the Nanosaurus Rex was not a juvenile T-Rex, completely separate species. You got the bad science over there that wouldn't budge, that was sitting there trying to troll the other side, even though the other side was with them at the beginning, but found different things and ventured out into the good science to look at the new evidence to support it, and boom, solved it. So yeah, you at least got to be able to have more brain power than a tree stump. And the reason I say that, because if it was a live tree, super smart. Trees actually communicate with each other. Quick example, when giraffes and other wildlife in Africa begin to consume too much of this tree, it starts to put off a pheromone that then allows other trees to become bitter to then fend off these animals. Brilliant. But a tree stump no longer exists. So unfortunately, there are a lot of tree stump for brain power out there, man.
There is. And, then you got the people who get married to opinions despite when something new comes out. Or, we chatted about it last night and I'll bring it up. You talk about Steve Cook and the Gable film. Happy retirement to Steve Cook, if by chance he hears this at some point. Are married to that Gable film. They won't budge, even though they came out and said, this is fake, which I feel bad for a couple of the scientists on Monster Quest because they kind of got, fooled a little bit. So, human can move like that, but it was a human after all, and the guy even repeated it. So you have to be willing, when something comes out and it's bogus, you have to be willing to let that go and not keep perpetuating it and blame the aliens that are still keeping this thing going.
Dude, beautifully stated right there, man, because again, I know it's a controversial topic and I won't fully dive into it because I don't want to, ruffle too many feathers, right? But again, like you just stated, I've seen that Gable film. The dude that tells you who made it and shows you all the stuff he used, the camera, his kid, his vehicles on his property. You see the dude chopping wood drinking a Coca-Cola. Or am I missing something right here? You legit see the guy in the film. Okay. And yeah, why is it Monster Quest showed the guy in the ghillie suit running just like the same thing? And also, if the film wasn't altered at all, how could something have been spliced in there to then be a real creature. And again, like one of the persons that was dissecting the video said, you can legit almost see that it looks like they just chopped in that whole teeth section real quick right there before they re-edited it, and I don't know, it just is interesting for sure, like you said, why people just like to kind of grab onto these hoaxes. It's like with the Loch Ness Monster, man, the surgeon photos and all those photos, dude, it's all been seriously debunked. But every time I turn on YouTube or something, you got somebody else out there trying to bring merit to that. Like, what? The guy used hippo footprints. The guy then tried to stage it again. This guy did this. This guy did this. Like, there's not one piece of quality evidence to support a Loch Ness Monster, but yet it's talked about all the time, and people spend so much money to go over there and see it inside of the Nessie everywhere. And it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and big name people are still perpetuating this BS on this evidence, which is, relates to what we were going to talk about, is why do these top-notch people get a pass? Yeah, they've had great stuff all the way up until, but I'm sorry, Todd Stanley took a big hit on this. Why isn't everybody treating other people like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan really of Standing. Once I found out what he did, I did think he seemed pretty cool at first before I really understood what was happening when I did see him on Survivor Man's Bigfoot, and then like you said, yeah, dude, that's unfortunately, I hate to say it, how every person that's a hoaxer should be treated, bro. You should have your stuff aired out. You should have your credibility stripped away. And sure, if people want to still follow you after and still participate in that, that's fine. That's their own prerogative. But now, the truth has been aired. And as a journalist, that is what a journalist is supposed to do. I'm supposed to gather things and present different sides and takes. Doesn't even mean that I have to believe that side personally at that point in time, but it still needs to be presented if it falls into something that is credible and needs to be presented. I mean, am I missing something here?
No, everything should be treated the same regardless of who says it. It should be scrutinized. It should be open to questions. If you got a secret research area, fine. I get wanting to do certain things, but at some point you have to back up what you're putting out. And if you're unwilling to do that, then that's a big red flag.
Huge red flag, like you said. And I've noticed recently too, I've tried to reach out to some interesting encounters and such that people had. And hey, I'm not here to put anybody on air to ever call people out and things. I'm just trying to speak and ask questions I feel like that need to be asked about certain encounters. I've realized that since I've been able to build a science team and things like that, there's been some people that have some pretty interesting encounters that have been dubbed OG encounters. Can't get them to talk to me. And I'm starting to wonder, is a deterrent because we actually have people that are going to dig into it and we're not just going to buy it, or what's the deal,
That might be part of it, or maybe, at some point people probably get tired of talking about it. They want to talk about something besides that one instance, even though that might be the thing they're most famous for.
Yeah.
Depending on the person. I mean, Bob Gimlin loves rehashing that no matter how much, and no matter how hard the questions are or how hard he gets trolled, I remember the Monster Quest at one point, it was so bad that he said, I wish I'd never seen the darn thing. But since then, but he didn't ever say it was fake. He just said, I wish I hadn't seen it because of all the trouble it caused his family back in the time. Now he's kind of worked through that and willing to talk more about it. So maybe that's the case where some people don't want to talk because maybe they got trolled so hard when they first talked about it that, oh boy, here we go. If we talk to him, then it all starts all over again.
Very well stated, actually. I didn't even necessarily have that pop into my head, but that would make a ton of sense for sure if something was considered more traumatic as well. Definitely. But again, I just wish when people would first document these things that proper people would be the ones that are actually fielding this information, and not just all these backyard researchers. Okay, I started there too, and if you took away my science team, I'm no different than that as well, man. Okay, which is why I built the science team to make sure that I was able to speak on credible things. All right, and not just be a backyard researcher. All right, I don't track animals. Now that I've spent time with my tracker, Nuxium, who's part of our science team, he's a master tracker. I actually was able to debunk a pair of tracks the other day without even having to ask him. And when I did ask him, he said he was impressed. But I could see numerous animal prints inside of this one print in the snow where this individual, was potentially claiming some sort of bipedal dog must have been in his yard. No, either a wild canine or the neighbor's dog, etc. And that's what occurred. Okay. But again, I'm not a tracker. All right, man. So I have a master tracker, and boom, I reiterate what he is telling me. But also, when push comes to shove, I step back and I allow my science team to speak. Okay. Because again, I feel like people that are actually educated on topics should really be able to actually have a platform to speak, and we shouldn't be giving it to people that don't deserve a platform and that have questionable encounters, questionable evidence. I mean, at the end of the day, Dr. Meldrum, I was a kid. The first DVD I ever bought about Bigfoot was because I was watching him on Monster Quest and stuff. I love how he approaches things with scientific aspects. And guess what? Some people out there, you might not like this take, but again, like I've told Mr. Barber before, I believe there's more than just a ape side to the Bigfoot. I believe there's also a primitive Neanderthal hominoid side as well. But I do believe Meldrum is spot on with that side of the ape versions, okay? And, where the Gigantopithecus fits in and such. So for people to call him unintelligent and he's an idiot because he thinks there's primates involved, but he's not an idiot because there's substantial amount of science supporting that primates are involved to an extent. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, people like him should be speaking on tracks. Why is somebody in a group that is, not to diss anybody, a backyard researcher, saying these are 100% Sasquatch footprints and such? I mean, what has happened here, dude?
I like the example of Dr. Meldrum because of the fact that he is very well educated, and he's also very experienced out in the field. Because sometimes you can have the smartest doctor in the world, but if you got to have surgery, I'll take the second smartest because he's done 30 of them where the guy ahead of him's only done one. Where Meldrum's been out in the field and he's the education and his, whole, I forget what his degree is in, something about primate locomotion or something.
Yes. He's also an anthropologist.
Yeah. So, and he's the first one to make science look seriously at the topic.
Right, bro? Thank you. That's just what I'm saying again. People want to take shots at the guy, but he has things that fall into that. And yes, primates are involved too. I mean, I just don't get it, brother, because like you said, guys out there in the field. So we're not just talking about somebody that sits behind the desk, because everyone has problems with armchair researchers, etc. Well, the guys out there, man. I mean, he goes to Alaska, to Canada. Him and Doug Hychak were just back up at that Canadian cabin where back in 2004 they had that instance where a Sasquatch was ripping it apart and they got DNA from that board with the screws on it. Okay, he's got castings, and he's literally spent the majority of his life looking at the way apes would move and walk. Okay, so if he has castings that have the same sort of structure and walking pattern as a primate would, does that not suggest to an extent that it came from something that was potentially a primate? Again, doesn't mean the rest of them aren't Neanderthal based as well, and there's different styles of that. But if this guy has spent his whole life on that and is telling somebody it's got a primate arch, but then somebody that's a backyard researcher calls him an idiot and starts arguing, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you always know when they've run out of proof for their argument, because that's when they start insulting. They're not making an intelligent argument anymore. Now they're just attacking you personally.
Yes. So I love that.
And I love Dr. Meldrum. I sent him quite a few pictures of tracks, and he replied and commented on a couple of them because and even gave me a suggestion because, I took a couple of the 23-inch, but the ground was so hard you could just barely make out the outline.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least it was all I could make out because I'm not an expert tracker. And he's like, well, next time if you have, LiDAR on your phone, use that. And then I'll be able to give you more information, but they look promising.
That's so cool, bro. I was literally just going to ask you your opinion about him too. And even though he is very respected in the scientific community, still takes the time to acknowledge people. And I have some people that I really looked up to that I followed a ton that I don't know them personally, so maybe they are nice people, but I did try to contact them a few times just to talk to them. They didn't even have to potentially come on my podcast, but they just wouldn't even take time to respond back, whether it was an email, a comment, or etc., where they would respond to other people. But then here, like you just said, at the end of the day, you could have had this ego. Why do I need to answer? Who is this person? I don't need to waste my time to answer your question. But what did he do? He took time and interacted with you. And I know for a fact that guy is so busy that every moment of his day with his family and what he does as well is precious. But yeah, he still was chill with you, man. So again, I love that, dude.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have a couple people do that. Dr. Melba Ketchum helped me out a little bit because I had some hair in a jar that was pretty long and it was orange, and she explained how to package it. And she gave me a guy's phone number if anybody can do it, but I don't know if he's still in the game. Unfortunately, the guy wasn't doing it anymore, but she still reached out. She still, there are really famous people who are willing to take the time to help something they think is worth the cause. And for their fans and fellow researchers, it's like they don't think they're any better than anybody else. There was another guy I reached out to that I'm not going to blast him here, but just he is a friend on Facebook and didn't respond to any of the pictures I sent, which is fine. I understand they're busy, but then was more than happy to personally address me and then asked me if I wanted to buy one of his blankets. Oh, okay.
That's what I mean, man. I don't have time for, any of that stuff right there, because at the end of the day, I don't care what level you're on and such. If you want to know answers to things, you sit down and talk to people. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've had numerous conversations with Doug Hychak, the creator of Monster Quest, and, I just texted him earlier. Guess what? Again, Doug's talked to so many amazing people. Guess what? Took time and still continuously takes time to have conference calls with Jody Cook and myself about things he wants to do on a Monster Quest reboot, ask me questions about things, and has me send him, potential Dogman evidence, etc. Again, there's not really many people in this field that are higher up than Doug Hychak, just in regards of, without Monster Quest, none of this stuff even really gets out to the public like it did.
Oh, exactly. To me, that was the OG show.
Yes.
I take that back. In Search Of first, because that's my generation. But Monster Quest took In Search Of and put it on and was just phenomenal.
Yeah, man. Even now when I go back, I still watch that sometimes before I'm going to bed and things. And like I told Doug and Jody and others recently, that I ended up finding a lot of quality information in there that I didn't seep in when I was younger, apparently. Makes sense when you're in high school and things, and at different points in time, your mind is evolving. So, yeah, when I went back through, I was like, wow, this is absolutely amazing stuff. And I really myself would love to reach out to Meldrum. I know that two of my really good friends and a member of our Mind Science team and also one of my awesome researchers are out in Idaho as well, and they could probably get in touch with him too. But I know Meldrum doesn't necessarily buy into some of the other cryptids, which he shouldn't, because there isn't really a lot to stand on. But I think if I can sit down with him and explain some of the baboon sightings and show him some of those potential baboon footprints and as to why they're up here, and see if he could buy into the fact that the Dinopithecus, which is a primate, would be able to have survived and could be actually responsible for some of this stuff, and I just want to see if I can get his take on that, man. And doesn't mean I need him on here or anything, even just through a message or, if I give him a call. But that's something I'd like to kind of work on.
After the show, I'll tell you how to get in touch with him.
Beautiful
Dude,
stuff,
I'm telling
man.
you, he is super nice. He's chatted with me a couple times, just like when he was sick. I would, send him, talk to him, and, hope you're feeling better. And he'd write me a couple paragraphs back, what was going on and how he was feeling. And
That's
super,
awesome.
super nice guy.
Yeah, and I just think you got the devil monkeys, okay, the Dogman baboon, and the Gugway. I personally think those are one and the same, okay? If you look at the way they're built, the eyes, all right, it's in with the Dogman here. And like I said, those are monkeys and apes and primates. Like, that's what he deals with. And we have some scientific stuff supporting that. And I really hope I can, just chat with him about that, because I think that might actually spark potentially his interest into some of the topic, man, because now we're not fully just talking about this canine thing. I'm giving you an example that I think these baboons are involved.
I mean, definitely could be. To me, I quit drawing lines in the sand anymore. I'm not going to be one of those guys who states this and then I'm willing to fall on the sword for it when there's possible other information that's going to come out and make me look stupid.
Don't be bad science, bro.
Exactly. That's why, no matter, to me, I'm kind of a downgraded Jeff Meldrum in the fitness world. I'm always learning. He's still going out in the field at his age and with his health issues, and he is still open to ideas, despite the fact that he's, the OG scientist who made people look scientifically at the topic. He's not considered like some of these guys that, you have to do this in order to talk to me, and you're going to have to go through several steps and meetings and get cleared security clearance
or be in with your clique.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's crazy to me. It's so sad that people, again, don't get the respect that they deserve. And I'm going to enunciate it again. Jeff Meldrum is an OG, is a GOAT. Linda Godfrey is a GOAT and an OG. Jody Cook is a GOAT and an OG. Autumn Williams is a GOAT and an OG. Let's just be respectful and let's get these people out there, all right? These people are okay with us using their stuff and building off their research. So why the hell are we not, building them up with us, man? So sure, if everyone loves what I put out, that's excellent. But guess what? I'm always going to be like, Linda's a GOAT. Let's pay some respect, man.
Yeah, and the more we have chatted, the more I want to, whether it's here or or someplace else, put together and find out behind the scenes what happened to Autumn Williams. Before, after, you know what I mean?
Well, let's do it, man. I mean, I would gladly come on your show because you're a Bigfoot show. And yeah, it's important, man. She is so important to the Bigfoot field, man. She was before all these other things. Her evidence is still used all the time. She was bullied out of the field and literally gave up her stuff because it wasn't worth the way it was making her feel in life. And people now use this without any enunciation that it came from her. Like these Sierra sounds and all these beautiful, amazing vocalizations that people still use. Nobody mentions Autumn Williams' mysterious encounters. And the last known public appearance was on her YouTube in 2012. I have been trying to find out what happened to this woman and also one of my childhood idols since I was a kid. I have VHSs that I taped when you used to have these VCRs and could record of mysterious encounters. All right, just went back a while ago just to make sure this all happened in my brain, because when I was talking to you originally, you're like, no, you were correct, because man, I'm just like, dude, this, I remember it all, the seasons and her face and what she did. And sure enough, man, there she is. And I've reached out to some great people that actually one of our great friends, Barb Hartman, was able to put me in contact with Tom Cantrell, who actually used to work hand in hand with her. Sadly, he's had some health issues and lost contact with her in 2022. and doesn't know anyone that's spoken to her since then. And there's a terrible rumor going around that she's no longer with us, but I am unable to verify this and cannot find anyone that knows where she is or who she is or what the heck happened, man.
It'd be interesting to start digging around and find out and do a whole thing on her, not just what happened now, but what she brought to the field and recognize what she did.
Dude, let's do it, bro. I mean, she's literally slept on. It's so effed up, man. I mean, even Jody.
Yeah, and I would like to find out who bullied her. It's like groups that didn't agree with her methods, or was it somebody who didn't like her, the fact that she was getting popular and they weren't? Or we both know how this field works with clicks and everything, and just because you bring something good to the table, all of a sudden it was better than what Johnny Bigfoot brought, so Johnny Bigfoot and his people get on and try to discredit what you brought.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you looked at the dates, but this was a while ago. I think this was really kind of before you would have had the right proper support system from your fans, meaning, like you said, I know what happened. It was obviously other organizations that probably took over the spotlight after. And it was men in the field that have problems with women, just like to this day, so many men are so sexist towards women, and that because, oh, you're a woman, you're not good at something. When I used to work at the Olive Garden, this freaking dude would come in, man. Old school World War II guy. So, yeah, sure, you've been through some stuff, but I don't care in regards of you having this attitude. Couldn't be of anything but white ethnicity to wait on him, and you couldn't be a woman. I'm not waiting on you, you dirtbag. I don't care what you did, man. That is the most disgusting mentality I've ever heard in my life, you know?
Exactly. And then it just creates more diversion, because then all of a sudden men's only group, and then all of a sudden you got women's only group, where if the two just blended.
Yes, and that's why I try to really go out of my way to give amazing women hosts on my channel and friends of mine opportunities, because, yeah, it's a big problem. And I think that's what happened to Autumn. She didn't have people that adored her able to tell her how much they adored her and how much they respected her stuff and be able to show everybody that it was her stuff. And back then, man, I mean, yeah. So when you get bullied into oblivion, dude, it obviously takes a toll on you. And I know she got really sick too. I'm sure when you're fighting for your existence, you don't really want to listen to a bunch of people just consistently troll you and mock you. Yeah, it's honestly a tragedy. And it again is appalling. You can type into YouTube. No one has done anything to say anything about her. It's freaking insane, bro. Like, it's nowhere. No one's done a tribute video. No one's spoken about this. How am I the only person on the planet that cared about Autumn Williams and Mysterious Encounters? Like, that is the most insane thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember watching a few episodes of it, but once you said, and then I saw who it was like, oh yeah, I remember her, and then wondered where did she go, and that was pre Bigfoot acceptance, whenever that happened.
Yes, she was like one of the first public shows about that, really, bro. She was before Monster Quest, man, too. She was on a network that wasn't necessarily easily accessible. It was like Outdoor Learning Network or something like that, but
yeah, so I mean, she was hitting home runs before the ball field was even built. So now we need to find and make sure people know. To me, it's important to know whose footsteps you're following, and people aren't just plagiarizing what she did or anybody else did. Not just her, but anybody.
That's just what I'm saying, bro. And amazingly stated. And again, I'm not saying that I'm a backyard researcher too outside of what I do with journalism. I'm not a master tracker. I'm not an environmentalist. Sure, I'm the head of my science team because they're friends of mine and I put together my scientists, but I am not a scientist, okay? I'm not saying that a backyard researcher can't be an amazing person and bring amazing things to this. What I'm saying is these backyard researchers are the first people to try to publicly attack people with actually great education and stuff and drive a more diverse stake in this field. And that's such a big problem because those brilliant people that we want to bring on board, like Meldrum and stuff, they don't publicly attack the backyard researcher, but it's the backyard researcher that wants to say they know more than the actual person that we really need.
Yeah, just because of people like me go out and interact with, we'll say 3 clans at this point, 2, maybe 3, does not give me expertise knowledge in how every freaking Bigfoot in the world is going to act. It gives me information on individuals. So I can't say Willy Wonka out in California didn't have this experience and the Bigfoot acted this way because mine didn't act that way. What kind of nonsense is that?
Right. And yeah, you have great stuff, man, and you are a great researcher. But like you just said, that's like you just being like, yeah, Meldrum, you're nobody, man. Your whole life that you spent on learning how biomechanics are set up for primates and such. No, you're nothing. I'm a better researcher and I'm smarter than you. And that's just some people's attitude, bro. It's horrible.
It is. And especially when, I mean, this is the guy that proved that the Bigfoot walk could not be replicated in the Patterson-Gimlin film. He was the first person to go through that big of a thing with the whole imaging and frame by frame steps with that gymnast, contortionist guy. And even he couldn't replicate the perfect stance and getting the heel kick right and everything. Meldrum did that.
Yep.
And then everybody else started copying his techniques after that.
Stamped his approval on it, like you just said, all of that. But wait a second. All these Sasquatch people hate Meldrum. He's anti-Sasquatch. What? You mean the guy that is the biggest pro-Sasquatch is anti-Sasquatch? I just can't even take it anymore, man.
No, and that's when and yet these people are well respected within their community, clique, or whatever you want to call it. I don't understand that. Then like me getting ready for my first show thinking I should be respected when I walk into Mr. Olympia. Get out of here, fat boy.
Or if Arnold came up to you and suggested something when you go out there, you laugh at him or something.
Yeah. It's unreal.
Yeah, it really is, my friend. And it's just such a problem. It's like me when I go down to the Boston Museum of Science and I'm learning great things, and this person's talking about, how the biometrics of this prehistoric animal's moving, and then they're showing you this amazing, Tesla coil and all this. You guys are idiots. That's not how electricity works. Who are you? Oh, wait, yeah, you cover missing people, and you're going to tell me how electricity and the Tesla coil works? Yeah, get out of here, dude.
The only missing person you should find was Tesla, who disappeared,
That's all I'm saying. Yes, exactly. It would just be really nice if people were more nice to each other and just respect what everyone's bringing to it. Because like you said, there's really no clear-cut answers. And again, I believe, just like with the Dogman, with Sasquatch, you have different types that people are seeing. I mean, there is a perfect ancestor that if they would have had reproduction with other ancestors at this point in time, which obviously they would have, I mean, that's no different than Neanderthals, Denisovians, etc., would fit into a 9 to 10 foot tall looking human ancestor that would be shaggy-ish because one side had more, fur and hair than the other, and would look like a dang Sasquatch. Well, that's Neanderthal based right there, which I believe is occurring. But I also believe, like I said, with baboons, the Gigantopithecus, and all kinds of other aspects like banging on trees. Okay, that is huge primate behavior. Same thing with bending of branches and things like that. I personally don't think Neanderthal man and hominoids would be bending tree branches necessarily to communicate with each other and things and such. That's ape behavior. I believe that hominoids would be more advanced in that regard of potentially having their own communication aspects or stacking up some rocks in a certain area where you understand this is meaning, hey, this is going this way. But everywhere across the world with large apes, and they break trees, they bend trees, they slam wood on trees and things like that. So it's really not that far-fetched to think there is an ape aspect to this as well. But guess what? I'm an idiot for thinking that, right?
Well, yeah, and even if we don't all agree on what's happening, we should be able to have conversations and not hate each other for it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a group I used to belong to and was a moderator in, and he kept going on these podcasts and, all Bigfoot are bad. All Bigfoot are bad. Bigfoot are evil. Bigfoot are bad. Bigfoot are responsible for all the missing people. And I finally just called him. I had talked to him privately, but he kept doing it. I finally called him out in chat and said, "Where are you're going off your database? How many
Hmm.
people are actually going to call in and say, hey, you know what? Bigfoot gave me an apple today. Where's your good reports?" Nobody's going to
That's
call in and give you a good report.
yes.
You're going off bad information,
Yeah.
incomplete information. I said,
And
and
that's
so I got booted from
beautiful.
the group, and like what?
Yeah, it's because as we are starting to wrap this up, I believe you and I touched base on this the other day, is if people really want to be like that, yes, I do agree that Bigfoot and Dogman are taking people, but let's be real for a second and fact check me out there to everybody. Do the math. Look at how many fatal animal attacks from every predator that is out there. If you're willing to put in the work to really fact check me here, go do that, okay? Add up every shark attack from gray whites, from hammerheads, tigers, and bull sharks, your top sharks right there. Look at every fatal registered grizzly bear attack, black bear, wolves, tigers, crocodiles, poisonous snakes. Look up all of that stuff. Add it all up, all right? And what if I told you it's probably not even going to come halfway up to all the atrocities that we humans have done to each other? So who's really worse here? Who do you really need to worry about more? The Sasquatch out in the forest, or the person living next door to you that's the next friggin' Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez or something, dude?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was reading figures. This was probably last year, but talked about the fact that snakes average of about 10,000 because of Africa and the remoteness and whatnot. And believe it or not, second was hippos.
Oh, yeah.
So, but then you add up in 1 year in just one city like Chicago or Philadelphia or Detroit, there's no comparison.
Right? Seriously, bro. You just hit it spot on before we let you get rolling. Honestly, I would walk with you in the Manistee National Forest, down Bray Road, anywhere down where the Michigan Dogman was seen before I would walk with you at night through Compton, through Chicago, through a lot of other areas, dude.
I wouldn't even drive through there.
No. That's what I'm saying. So again,
Yeah.
to everyone, make sure you are safe out there. And yes, we do believe, and I believe they are involved. But I'm just saying, people are the worst monsters. Okay, not everybody. There's amazing, beautiful people out there. We're not saying that. We're just saying that the people are really what you should be worrying about just as much.
Yeah, not everything wears their monsters on the outside.
Exactly, right? Great stuff, man. And is there anything else you'd like to touch base on before we let you get boogieing?
No, I think we're good. I think we had a good show.
I mean, don't we always, dude?
Yeah, we always do. Everything flowed nice, and we got to rant a little bit, which is always nice to vent. And we aren't going to catch any heat because we didn't throw any names out there. So any night we don't catch heat's a good night.
Yeah, definitely, man. And to everyone out there, I love all researchers. That's not the point of this whole entire conversation. It's not to say that just because people have scientific, letters in front of their name that they're a better person than somebody else, okay? And that they're a better researcher, because we just literally broke it down about how there's good science and bad science and gave examples of this, okay? But it's always seemingly the side of the researchers that aren't really scientific based that always attacks the scientific community. And that's just a huge problem, because we're a machine and all the cogs need to twist together, meaning let's show some respect, all right? And let's also just show respect to people that have paved the way for us and stuff like that. And yeah, when somebody says you are amazing, make sure you take the time to enunciate the other people that are amazing, that helped you, quote unquote, become amazing in things. Just like a huge problem. And a lot of people, for example, if you were to ask them, I'll give a quick example. I love the guy, Jeremy Swayman, Sugar Sway for the Bruins, our goalie, played up in Maine, watched the guy so much. But when people would talk to him and, say how great he's playing or how amazing you are, you know what he always says? He thanks them, but he always says right after, I got to make sure to let everybody know it's because of my goaltending coach, my family that supports me. And you see what I'm saying? There's two ways to handle that. Yeah, thank you. I know I'm playing the best in my career right now and I feel like I'm on fire. Or you enunciate the reason you're on fire without saying it. It's because you just said it. The people that are helping you be on fire.
Right. I have one quick question for you.
Yeah, man, fire away.
This one, I should just look it up and quit being lazy. I got a mini computer in my hand, but to me, the community should be working together, researchers, investigators, whatnot.
Yes.
What's the difference between a researcher and an investigator? Is the researcher someone who looks at the data, an investigator gathers, or I'm confused there because I do believe in, I don't care if you've been out in the woods or not. If you got a whole bunch of data from people who have been, that makes a whole lot of information that I don't need to go look for.
Yes, which is why you need the analytical people and such to kind of put it all together and, serve it as a nice platform instead of, having to look through a gazillion different aspects. And honestly, man, I think it's a play on words. If you look up the definitions, they're pretty much similar, man. Investigator, researcher, it's really how someone wants to address themselves, more or less, I guess, if that makes sense.
That's why I go with enthusiast.
Boom. There you go, man. Yeah, so you don't really pigeonhole yourself. Quick example, traditional journalism would be more writing and, presenting things in written form, but photojournalism is what I do, meaning, yes, we're presenting stuff, but we're using photos and imagery and videos and such.
Yeah, I wondered if they were different because you always hear about crime scene investigators.
Yes.
But you got Titanic researchers.
Okay, so the investigator, crime scene investigator, most likely is somebody former law enforcement or someone that, has something, to show why they can help you out, and then they investigate that. Whereas a researcher seems to be more kind of like you said, like an enthusiast, unless you're a big time person that is able to make a lot of money off it. You're probably just doing that as a hobby, more or less.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Not that you're still not a professional at it. It's just not something that you're fully doing potentially all the time unless you're able to. Whereas a private investigator is always looking for cases to try to dig up, legal research and stuff as to present, to the family or whoever they're helping out. Whereas, like I said, somebody that's a researcher for the Titanic or something could be a shark biologist for a full-time job or something. And then just when they get a chance and they got this opportunity, they dive into it,
Gotcha. I appreciate the clear up.
No, definitely, man. I appreciate you. But, well, to the audience, yes, this will be the conclusion tonight of the Midnight Society. Mr. Barber has to get back to things he needs to attend to, but please do go over and check out his YouTube. It will be in the description as always. And I do appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, Ryan.
Always a pleasure to come in and get you out of your coffin.
Ooh, you legends, you. I do adore every single one of you. And if you did make it this far tonight, yes, please like, comment, subscribe, share the information, and feed the algorithm. We will see you very soon.